Okay, as you can see here now, I have all of my clone stamp tool work done. So I have all those words out along the bottom of the beach here, and I have the watermark out of the sky. The next thing we're going to do is actually add in a few birds. So if you go back to your handout folder, week 1, you're going to see a bird image. Pull that up in Photoshop. Now, what we want to do is put this bird into our sky, but we don't want the extra background. We just want the bird. Now, there are a few different ways of cropping an image out from its background. So what I'm going to go through here is just one of the ways, and we're going to practice it with the bird here. Later, we're going to learn some other ways. To start out, we need the polygonal lasso tool. It's the third tool down from the top on your toolbar. Polygonal lasso tool. What this does is it's going to You click and start at one point, and as you drag, it's going to make a straight line wherever you go. I'm going to pick another point to click, and every time you click, it makes an anchor point. So what I want to do is get the entire outline of this bird. I don't want to include much of the background, but I don't want to miss any of the bird. So I don't have to spend a bunch of time doing this, but I want to get it fairly close, because in the next step we'll remove the remaining background from around the bird. So each time I click, it's creating an anchor point, and everything going around is going to be what will be selected. And then when you get back to the beginning, you're going to see a little circle next to your lasso tool, and then when you click, that means it's going to close the path. And whenever you have marching ants around something like this, that means that is selected. Okay, so what we're going to do is copy this selection. You can go under Edit, Copy, or the shortcut for that is Control-C. Now I'm going to go back onto my beach background, and I'm going to hit Control-V or Edit Paste. It'll do the same thing. So there's my bird. Now obviously that doesn't look quite right yet, because it still has some of this blue sky background around it, and it's right in front of my people, which is not where I want it. So first thing I'm going to do is just move it over. In order to move something, we need the Move tool. Top pointer tool on your toolbar. Click that, and go ahead and just move it over. Okay. Now I'm going to want to zoom in on this bird a little bit. I'm going to use my Control Plus to get nice and close to it. What we're going to do to get rid of this background is going to be create a layer mask. Okay, and a layer mask is something we put over top of the image where we won't take any of it away, but we can hide some of it. So on the bottom here, you'll see chain link and FX. It's the third one over we need to click on. Looks like a rectangle with a circle cut out of it. Click that, make sure you're on this layer and click that. And before I forget, let's rename this layer Bird so we know what it is. Now this is my layer mask. So if I'm selected on my layer mask, I can work on the mask. If I select the layer, I can work on the layer. You can tell by which one is bracketed. So I want to work on the layer mask. Now the layer mask is all white. White is the part of the image that's going to show up. So what I need to do is take my regular brush tool, which is right here. It's below the Band-Aid looking tool. And I have white selected now, which is not going to do anything. I need to get black selected. Easy way to do that, to toggle between the two layers here, is just hit the X on your keyboard, and then you'll get black on top. Okay, now I can control my brush up here, just like I did with the Clone Stamp tool. The size will have to vary as I work my way around, but we want to start with a fairly soft brush. So I'm at 22% here, and that should be fine and dandy. So I'm going to get a little closer to my bird to start this. So you'll see what happens. Basically it looks like I'm just erasing part of it. And that's what happens when you paint with a black brush on the layer mask layer. It basically just takes some of it away. And by having a low hardness percentage on my brush, it's going to give me those softer edges. which is going to look a little more realistic. Now when I need to get more detailed, I can simply make my brush smaller and then make it larger for these bigger areas. And remember those bracket keys next to the P, they are going to save you time when you're working on this. So especially the wings here, I can use a slightly bigger brush because it's not completely distinguishable where the edges of each part of the wing are. And they're feathers, so they're soft. Okay, so for bigger areas, I can work with a little bit bigger brush. Then when I get down to these details, like the face here, I'm going to want to make my brush smaller, because I want these lines to be a little crisper. Make sure I'm getting the outline of that face. Okay, and then as I get back to the body, I can make my brush a little bigger. A little smaller around his claw here. And a little bigger around the tail. Now you might be wondering, what happens if you accidentally cut off too much? Like if I'm going along and I take off part of the wing like that. I want that part of the wing back. I can undo it, but maybe I was, tooling along for a while. I don't want to lose all of that, because by undoing it, it'll take away everything I just did. What I can do instead is hit that X so that the white comes up again, and white is just adding it back in, whatever you took away. White on the layer mask will show the image, black will take it away. Oops. See, I went a little too far with that, so I'm going to get my white, put it back in, and my black to more carefully take it away. And I can get a smaller brush to get in between these feathers a little bit better. Okay, good. So now you can see I've got my bird cropped out, but I don't want it to be that big in the sky. It could be if it was almost right in front of me when I was taking the picture, but I want it smaller. So I'm going to go back to my Move tool, and then to transform an image, it's Control-T. So Control-T is the keyboard shortcut, and you'll see a bounding box like this. Now if I grab it from any point and just grab and pull, it's going to get distorted. This is what distorted means. The length and the width don't relate to each other the way they should anymore. And the bird looks funny. So I'm going to hit Control-Z. To make sure that doesn't happen, always work from the corner and hold the Shift key. Hold the Shift key, drag from the corner, and the bird will never get distorted. Okay, so maybe I want it about that big. I can move it where I want it. A little smaller. Okay, I want it there. Now, if I want another bird in my sky, I don't have to do this whole process again. I can use this bird and just make a copy of it. Simply to do that, I can copy the whole layer because I need the layer mask and everything. So I'll click on that layer, drag it to the New Layer button, and it'll create a copy layer right on top. So then I can move this one over, and maybe I want this one facing the other side. I'm going to get my transformation tool, and I'm just going to pay attention to how wide it is and flip it like this. And just try and make it about the same so it doesn't look distorted. And I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to hold the Shift key, work from the corner. So it's a little bit smaller over there. I'm going to make another one. I want it facing to the left again, so I'm going to copy that original layer again, move it over, and this one I'll make even smaller. It's further off in the distance. So you can add one, two, well, at least two. I want you to get the feel for copying and rotating. At least two birds, up to how many of you want, really, on your beach scene. But yeah, this will be practicing the polygonal lasso tool and working with a layer mask now to add birds into your sky.